Alright, cats and kittens, slide into your bell bottoms, crank up that 8-track and set your CB radio to channel 19, because we're about to take a groovy cruise through the wild world of General Motors' funky fresh compact coupes. The Chevy Monza, old Starfire, Pontiac Sunbird, and Buick Skyhawk. 4 badges, 1 chassis, and a whole lot of disco-era drama. Welcome back to Auto Chatter. As always, facts, opinion, and speculation will be given. Give a big thumbs up, like you're hitchhiking in 1974, and comments are always welcome. Well, now let's begin. Back in the mid-70s, the U.S. was stuck in an oil crisis funk. Gas prices were high, horsepower was low, and Congress was breathing down Detroit's neck with emissions rules. GM had a plan, though. They cooked up the H-body platform, spun off from the Vega, and originally designed to house a futuristic Wankel rotary engine. That's right, Daddy-O. They thought everyone would be buzzing around in RX-75s before that car even showed up. But then the rotary flunked fuel economy tests harder than your cousin Tony flunked algebra. So instead, GM stuffed in every engine they had lying around the shop. 4-bangers, Buick V6s, and even small block V8s. Instant disco stew. The timing was good for a soft reboot, as the much-hyped Chevy Vega and Pontiac Astra were proving to be reliability nightmares and could rust quicker than a Brady Bunch episode. First up, the Chevy Monza, the star of the show. Introduced in '75 with swoopy Ferrari-inspired styling, it was Motor Trend's Car of the Year. Yeah, baby. Engines range from the asthmatic 2.3-liter 4 to a Buick 3.8 V6, all the way up to various V8s of questionable horsepower. Torque arm rear suspension, this thing handled like a mini Camaro, at least until the carb coughed on a cold morning. Next, the Oldsmobile Starfire. Same car, but with Olds trim and more fake wood than your parents' basement paneling. It was the classy one. Bucket seats, extra gauges, and if you checked the Forenza box, you even got spoilers and a firmer suspension. Real sharp, like a leisure suit with extra lapels. Now it's just a matter of getting Oldsmobile buyers to think small. Then comes the Pontiac Sunbird, introduced in '76, a model year after the others. Pontiac tried to make it the Firebird's baby brother. They even offered a formula package with stripes and handling tweaks. But under the hood, still the same engines, from 4 cylinders to V6s and V8s, like the Chevy and Oldsmobiles. Let's just say it had more bird decals than actual horsepower. And finally, the Buick Skyhawk. Same H-body, but marketed as an entry luxe cruiser. Standard and only V6 power during its run, cushy trim, and enough fake chrome to blind a BG. It was the car for folks who wanted a personal luxury, but couldn't swing a Riviera. Its unique feature was an optional Astro roof, a large fixed glass roof complete with an aluminum band. Buick would have the same problem as Oldsmobile, as these were beyond a slight downsize from what Buick traditionally was. But here's the nuts and bolts. All 4 of these bad boys rode on a 97-inch wheelbase, weighed about 2,700 to 2,900 pounds, and packed a pretty advanced suspension for the time. The torque arm rear axle was a slick trick that gave better traction under power. That same design would later end up in Camaros and Firebirds through the 80s and 90s. So yeah, the Monza walked so the F-body could strut. Engines? Check this lineup. Starts with a 2.3-liter Vega 4, aluminum block, belt-driven overhead cam, notorious for cooking itself like a TV dinner if you forgot coolant. The 2.5-liter Iron Duke, tough as nails, 85 horsepower on a good day. Exploring higher RPMs was not really recommended, as words like smoothness and refinement wasn't on the menu. Pontiac was known to be sporty, so it's ironic that they created the old Duke. The 3.8-liter Buick V6, smooth, torquey, and basically the best mill you could option. A design that originally flopped in the 1960s and sold to another car maker, only to be purchased back to GM because AMC wasn't using it, and the first oil crisis gave it a new and enduring lease on life. And finally, these small block V8s. 262, and even a 350 in a Monza. And while the others, later, besides Buick, had a 305 as an option too. Sounds wild, right? Yeah, but thanks to emissions, we're talking about 110 to 145 horsepower. We're in peak 70s melaise era, baby. Fast was a relative concept in 1977. Transmissions, you could row your own with a 4-speed or even a 5-speed on some models, or let the 3-speed automatic do the boogie for you. Now let's set the time machine to disco and roll through year by year. For 75, the Monza 2+2 debuts. Ferrari knows, Camaro dreams. Town Coupe follows with round headlights. Options include a 262 V8 and in California a detuned 350 that barely made more power than a blender. Buick Skyhawk and old Starfire join in, and both had a standard 110 horse Buick 3.8 under the hood. Prices started around $3,500 or about $20,700 today for a Monza. Not bad for a disco mobile. For 76, Pontiac Sunbird hits the scene. You got a 2.3-liter Vega engine or the Buick V6 as an option. Hopefully you chose the latter. Monza adds a 305 V8 in California only, replacing the 350. Everywhere else was the 110 horse 262 if you wanted 8 spark plugs. I would recommend just getting the Buick 6. A Spider package with stripes and a 5-speed manual became available too. Sunbird's base price just $3,431 or about $19,000 today. I think the Mini Firebird styling stands out as my fave when it was in 2+2 form, but my folks had a 78 when I was a kid, so I'm biased. For 77, Monza Mirage shows up, a dealer special with wild IMSA-inspired body kit. Perfect if you wanted to cosplay as a race car driver while stuck in gas lines. The Vega engine and the car itself bows out after 77, and unfortunately is the standard engine in the Starfire this year with the Buick 6 still optional. But you could get a Chevy 305 V8 under the hood too if you wanted it now. Same goes for the Monza buyers, not just those in California. Sunbird gets their new Iron Duke 4, a model year before the Chevy and Olds versions, and even the cheapest one has it under the hood. 78 was Monza facelift time. They had wagons and hatchbacks stolen straight from the dying Vega, as they were one with a nose job basically now. The Monza S was rumored to be around just to use up leftover Vega bodies. Pontiac recycles its Astra wagon from before too, and they didn't bother giving it much of a front end change from the car before. Iron Dukes take over as the base motor for all but the Buick. Olds launches the Forenza trim with spoilers and a stiffer suspension. Basically, your Starfire could finally corner harder than Aunt Linda's shopping cart. Sunbirds could finally be had with the Chevy 305 V8 as an option. For 79, V8 option starts to disappear and the 5-speed is dropped. Disco might be dying, but hood stripes were alive and well. 1980 would mark the end of the road. Production actually ended in late 79, but leftover stock carried into the 1980 model year. Old Starfire limped out with just 8,000 units, and I don't think the Skyhawk was much better. Both divisions exchanged H-body orders for additional X cars, which were much better sellers for them. GM was already hyping up the front-wheel drive J cars by this time anyway that were coming soon. The GM empire is about to strike back. Over 6 years, here's the final scoreboard. Chevy Monza, 731,504 built. The Sunbird, 479,967. Buick Skyhawk, 125,311. Oldsmobile Starfire, 125,188. Getting Buick and Olds buyers to accept such a radical departure from the large cars they were known for was a big ask. Neither car really caught on compared to their Chevy and Pontiac cousins. But overall, not a bad run for these cars that were basically more upscale Vega models with better engine options, considering most are now recycled into soup cans or parked under tarps in Ohio. These cars were peak 1970s. Picture this. You're rolling up to your roller rink, 8-track blasting Casey and the Sunshine Band, your date in a velour jumpsuit, your Monza Spider stripes glowing under the neon. Meanwhile, Ford's Mustang II is strutting around like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. And your Monza? It's more like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky. Not the champ, but it goes the distance. So were these cars muscle machines? Nah, jive turkey. They look sharp, they handled better than most melaise rides, and they gave GM a taste of sporty compact market before the front-wheel drive models took over. Today, they're rare survivors of an era when you could still option stripes, opera windows, and V8s all on the same chassis. Groovy, right? Smash that subscribe button harder than a Vega piston slaps a cylinder wall, and join us next time for more disco-era rides and from other decades, too. Until then, it's, keep it between the ditches, good buddy. Subscribe if you haven't already. Sleep well knowing I'll be keeping the headlights on for you. And until next time, chatter out.